my values and my character over time began to change. And so I wrote this book called The Case for a Creator, where I got to interview many people in this room. And because I wanted to update this rudimentary little investigation I did back then and flesh it out with new discoveries and new data and so forth. And it's just fascinating stuff. And I'm so grateful for what you all are involved in terms of helping people understand the discoveries of science today, from cosmology to astronomy and physics and biochemistry and so forth, that build a cumulative case that I believe points powerfully toward a creator of the universe. And so I just want to say thanks to Phillip Johnson and what he has contributed to kind of helping launch this whole thing. I remember a few years ago at Willow Creek Church, we decided to bring Phillip in for an event, and we figured it's Sunday night. How are we going to attract people to hear this professor to come talk on a Sunday night about evolution and creation? We didn't know how we could do it. And so we had this bright idea. We sent copies of his book to every science teacher within 100 miles of the church. And we said, he's going to take questions. You can come and ask your toughest question. But then we called the news media and we said, we just invited every science teacher within 100 miles to come hear this critic of evolution. It's going to be a hot time tonight. And so the newspaper calls up the local atheist, a guy named Rob Sherman, a friend of mine, great guy. And Rob says, well, I'm going to come and I'm going to challenge him with the toughest objections. And boy, well, that was published in the newspaper. It created a huge buzz. So the night of the event, I don't know if Phillip Johnson remembers this. The night of the event, people started streaming into our auditorium. We had 5,000 people show up. And most of them were there because they wanted to hear Rob Sherman, the atheist, pin down Phillip Johnson with the unanswerable objection. And so we did this incredible event that night, but you know what happened? Poor Rob Sherman, the atheist, he took a nap after dinner. He slept through the whole thing. He never showed up. And I called him later and I said, you know, you do more evangelism for me than any Christian's ever done. You got 5,000 people to come and to hear Phillip Johnson speak, which was great. So anyway, I honor Phillip Johnson for all he is and for who he is. And I'm going to get off the platform because there are people of much greater substance than I am who are going to tell us some more about Phillip Johnson and this movement that we all are involved in. Thank you.
Will Provine of Cornell.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you, Lee. I do not have your silvery voices. I can no longer speak very rapidly, but that's all right. I don't think very rapidly either. In particular, I can remember well debating Phillip Johnson and understanding that this man was only about twice as smart as I was. And I admired him so much for coming to Cornell year after year to entertain and challenge the students in my evolution class. It was a wonderful thing that Phillip did, and I am enormously indebted to him. Thank you, Phil, and you've been a so worthwhile opponent in these issues. Bravo. There are only two issues I'd like to address with regard to intelligent design. These are the two areas at which I think the intelligent design movement has fallen on its behind. The first of these issues is extinction. I do not think that the ID movement has given adequate attention to the problem of extinction. Well over 99.9% of species with their divinely oriented mechanisms have all gone extinct. And it seems to me that the ID movement has to pay as much attention to extinction as it does to survival, because the organisms that go extinct, of course, have all the same mechanisms as the ones that live on. So that's number one. Extinction looks like it's a problem better explained by environmental change rather than for any divinely inspired adaptations or mechanisms inside of it. You'd expect for the designer to have a better sense of the future.